Good morning, Andre here from Peak Motorcycles. Today is a trail riding day. So you can see I've got my CRF300L out. I'm going to try and give it a proper go on the suspension because a few people have been asking me to try and give some feedback. So I couldn't think of a really good way to do a suspension comparison because it's just really how I felt about the stock suspension versus how I feel about the new suspension. I suppose a great way would be to have a side-by-side comparison, but when I tried to do something like that, it was nigh on impossible just because my riding's not that consistent and I tend to go faster with the new suspension. Anyway, I'll tell you what I think as I go along. Hopefully it makes sense. And yeah, it should be a great day for a trail ride.
Yeah, so it's quite nice to be out on the CRF for the first time in a while. I seem to have been getting other bikes serviced, doing my tour to Ireland and other things, so I really haven't been riding this as much as I would have liked, and I've just forgotten just what a comfortable place it is to be, and I'm really looking forward to getting out on the trails today. It is a little bit chilly though, but it is mid-October in the north of England.
So this is just the road out of Edale that goes up towards Bretton. I know it's not a part of the trail ride yet, but it is such a fun sequence of bends. This is just played back at normal speed on my CRF300 Rally as I go up. And as you get up towards the top, and over this segment of road they used recently on the Royal Enfield into your promotional video, they're showing this out now. So it's just up into the clouds, and then you drop down out on the other side of the views over the Hope Valley. So the starting place was from the car park just as you come into Buxton. Good meeting place to catch up with the other guys before we finally set off, and the very first road we took was the old Quarry Road out of Golf Course.
So I want to know what the suspension was like. I'm going over these bumps now and the bike is just gliding over them, whereas before you'd just feel the bumps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then the last one would just try and tip you off as you bottomed out. But that is just so much more comfortable. Yep.
This Quarry Road doesn't actually feature as part of the Trans-Euro trail that runs very close to here. Instead that passes further south near Buxton. But it's really good fun. It's a trail, so it's an unsurfaced road for which you can only travel on road legal vehicles. So for a novice like me, it's just a great opportunity to learn. There's a bit of gravel, some corners, a few holes, lots of rocks. But yeah, great learning environment.
So we've done the first couple of lanes, which you might have seen from some of my other videos. It's a bit wetter than last time. I think last time it was in the height of summer we'd had a dry spell. We have had a fair bit of rain lately, and even though it's dry today and it was dry yesterday, there's still puddles everywhere, and a little bit of mud, or certainly more mud than I've come across before, but all good fun. Thank you. So now we're just going up the tarmac lane to Rowter Farm, almost in the dark peak.
This part of the route is the Trans-Euro Trail, and it cuts above and south of Castleton before dropping in near the top of Pindale. There was then another trail where we came upon some horses, so we just had a bit of a break while they passed us. And then it was back onto the main road. The next section was as we headed down towards Hucklow, and this was quite an interesting climb. It started off with what used to be a paved road, which then gave way to be a few larger puddles. Geoff was very helpful on suggesting where the line might be, where it doesn't get really deep, where the bike might sink, but it was great fun. And then from there it was a climb up a very broken track up towards the village of Great Hucklow itself. From the village of Great Hucklow there's another trail which takes you right the way up to the top, and on the top there's a gliding club, and there's a road that takes you over to Abney. So if anyone's tried to do this trail in recent months, you might have found that it was actually closed at the section through Abney. Once you're in Abney there's a great trail that heads over the top and heads all the way down to the village of Shatton. We all had so much fun doing the bits along the top and then the long descent down into Shatton that when we finally got back to the paved road and we stopped and Geoff had a quick ask around to see who wanted to head back up again, well, the decision was kind of taken and we turned around and headed back up the hill so we could get a few pictures of us before we had another break, surrounded by all these amazing views.
So it's been a top morning's riding. As you can see, right now we're actually just on the hill above the Hope Valley behind me. This is the trail that goes from Abney that way down to Shatton if you go this way. So yeah, it's been a pretty cool morning. Dry weather. The trails have been slightly wet, but they've been good enough. And yeah, it's kind of fun to find a little bit of mud, and I think everyone's having fun. It's 3 CRF300s, that's 2 rallies, 1 L, 1 250L and a Tenere. But yeah, it's been a really cracking morning's riding. So Geoff's been doing a fine job taking us around some of the trails in my backyard. Some of them I've been down before, some of them I haven't. Looking forward to more to come.
The last few miles had all been over the tops of the hills, and the next section of the Trans-Euro Trail takes you along the side of the hill through fields full of sheep, from the village of Shatton all the way over to a paved road which finally takes you back down into Grindleford.
So I think that's the morning's riding done, and I say morning as it's now 1:45. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been lots of the Trans-Euro Trail on the way over here. Now just riding down the valley from Hathersage down to Grindleford, and I think we're going to head up to Grindleford station for a coffee. But yeah, just lots of fun. Weather's stayed pretty nice, you know, dry is good at this time of year. Not too hot, not too cold, not too wet, no snow, so yeah, that's all good. Had what would have been a quick lunch break at Grindleford Station Cafe, but as it's quite a busy day today, as you can see from all the cars, it actually turned into a slightly longer break. Still, we're not in a rush. So now we're going to head up to Houndkirk and ride that a few times.
So this is the Hucklow Road. So it's an old Roman road which runs from just near Fox House on the west side of Sheffield over to Ringinglow. It's quite big and wide and open, and it's just a great place to try out suspension.
So I suppose we should talk a little bit about the suspension. So what I do find is that trails like this are now just so much easier. Now it's probably quite difficult to actually tell, which is why it's not great for a video comparison. But I was all over the place before on the stock suspension. I was just worried about bottoming out. I'd hit these bigger bumps, and it would just take maybe 3 or 4 bounces on the suspension for it to settle. Whereas now, yeah, it just does inspire confidence. Now some of this is probably that I've got a bit more practice on the bike, which also helps. And over stuff like that just seems really easy compared to how it was before. There's some quite big rocks here, there's some quite big bumps, and yeah, confidence inspiring. This is where previously I would have bottomed out quite a lot, and it is just bouncing over them and damping it right down almost straight away. Thank you very much indeed.
This is where the Hucklow Road rejoins the main road, just at Ringinglow, and to the left is the mountain bike trails at Lady Canning's plantation. So after this we headed towards Sheffield and actually then down and back up Portaclough. Unfortunately my GoPro battery died, so that's going to have to wait for another day. We then got back on the Houndkirk Road. There's a separate spur that you can go along, which then joins back up in the main bit of the trail. The trail drains really well, and it's a really excellent mix of sandy bits, rocky bits, sort of loose rock that's out in the trail, and gravel. So it's just a really useful place to practice some skills and also give the suspension a good workout. This next section was a trail that I had ridden before, but only in the opposite direction. So I'd done it starting from the barrel at Bretton and then heading out towards Grindleford, whereas instead we came up after being on the Houndkirk Road and rode the trail back towards the barrel at Bretton. We had been out for quite a long time and I was running out of batteries for my GoPros. So about now the helmet camera that I have, the battery in that died, so I was just left with the one that was on the bike. So there's no more helmet audio to come. This is either a good thing or a bad thing depending on your perspective. Probably a good thing. So I have left the last few bits of video in here that were all taken from the camera that was on the bike, just because the sun was getting close to the horizon. We were doing the last few trails back over and past Rowter Farm, and it's just a lovely time of day to be out. Considering it's mid-October, winter's really not that far away, but to be able to enjoy trails like these in the Peak District is excellent. I suppose I could have put some music over the top of it, but many people have thanked me for not putting music on videos, and I'll try and talk through exactly where they are, should people try and find them in the future. Anyway, that's almost all the riding, so there's the last few trails before we get back to Buxton.
So there we go, made it safely back home. It was a cracking day out. Big thanks to Geoff for taking us around all day. He's an absolute star. Took us down some really good trails. Some of them I've seen before, some of them were new to me. Some of them I've been down but not in the direction we took today. Also great to meet Kerry and Keith. I hope you guys have a safe journey home. And last but by no means least, massive thanks to Simon for inviting me along and sorting out the day. So yeah, that was really good. Bike's covered in mud, big smiles all round. So now I think I just need to maybe wash it off, or at the very least wash off my legs and my feet before I'm allowed back in the house. The suspension on the bike is just such a big change for me. I was talking to Simon about his CRF300L. So he still has the stock suspension and he's about a third lighter than I am. And actually he said it fared pretty well just with the preload turned on. So I think the suspension mods are definitely something you might want to consider if you're a bigger person. For me, I found that it was just so much more confidence inspiring going over some of the bumps and the ruts and the rocks. I've still got the stock tyres on, so I'm looking forward to seeing what happens when I put my Michelin trackers on. I think I still have a few hundred miles left in these ones. I'll go and clean the bike up, go and clean myself up, and then head in. It's a great day out. I hope this has been interesting. If it has, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.